I want all your videos to be on, at least for the first 10 minutes or so. So semua sekali, video buka. Siapa tak ada tudung pakai topi Kaedah, Tiru dah buka dulu. Orang lain macam mana? Yanti dah buka, Arif dah buka, Yulu dah buka, thanks to you. Syira, Siti Afidah.
Tunggu jap doktor.
Okay, so tak nak menyuruh belakang tiang lah.
Saya buat video.
Okay, apa lagi yang belum buka ni? Siti Maisara, Roshini, Ana, Wajidi, Jiang, Open Uri, Nadira, tak buka lagi. Umaira, Usyarani, Menu, Zang. Tak tahu, lambat lagi.
Dah doktor.
Okay, so, okay, you all ni dalam bahasa Inggeris tak ada masalah kan? Because we have at least 3 ya. Ada Zang on video please Zang. Yulu and Hana. So Hana, you?
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. So do you want to on your video?
Yes, just checking.
Okay, just checking. You were not present last week, was it you?
Yeah. Last week.
Okay, so I'm recalling what happened last week. Did you gather any information from the rest of the class regarding what happened last week?
No.
Because what happened last week is quite important. Quite difficult. Okay, ingat dah last week apa yang aku? Ingat tak? What happened last week?
We talking about
What? Talking about?
Sample size.
Mana ada sample size? You cakap macam kelas mana ni? Tak ada more important than that. We are talking about directional hypothesis kan?
Yes, correct.
We were talking about directional hypothesis. Okay, which leads to a one-tail test. Remember? Okay, now we try to recall. I try to put everything in one big picture. Okay, first and foremost, hopefully every one of you is doing research, trying to find things that can be applied in real life. I would take Hana as an example. Hana, you're trying to use a certain module, right? I would suggest, okay, maybe in the earlier stages, you do a descriptive study. You do a correlation study. You do a causal comparative study. More so to understand what is not available yet in your own field. Examples, what are not available? The method of learning, better method of teaching, okay? Good teaching aids. Like for example, during this pandemic, everybody nearly is at the blunder. They don't know what to do. What is the better way to teach the students? Okay, so at the moment we should take this opportunity to study how is it better to teach the students. So in Malaysia, for example, the ministry suggested that the classes break to 2. Okay? Alternately, one group will be taught online and alternately the other will be taught interaction. The most important question is that, does it work or not? Berjaya tak, Zaino? Sebab tu saya nak on semua ni. Berjaya tak, Zaino?
Untuk sekolah rendah saya tengok tak berjaya sangat sebab yang di rumah.
Mana awak tahu tak berjaya? Awak ada kaji?
Sebab refer daripada kehadiran dan penglibatan tu tak jauh.
Yang pertama sekali, semua ni collect data dulu. Without the necessary data, we will be making bad decisions. Okay, so that's what happening nearly in every circumstances. We don't collect data, we make conclusion. That's why perkataannya kaji, tapi kajinya kadang-kadang misuse. Everybody tend to say, we are studying, we have studied. But if the collection of data is not right, whatever conclusion that comes along will not fit what you intend to do. So all that is based on systematic research. Okay? So whatever the is should be done first at a pilot stage. If I were to refer to Malaysian system, everybody, every ministry would be talking about a pilot study was conducted. But the outcome of pilot study was never known. Betul tak? Tak tahu pun. So proses tu berlaku, tapi kita tak tahu berjaya tak berjaya. Tu, jadi kat sini mungkin the researchers here, for example, maybe are not very adaptable to the problem they face. So now I'm suggesting to you all, like nearly everybody else, we should come out with new ways, a better way. But you don't suggest better ways unless those ways are being supported by concrete data, kan? Then one of the biggest issue is always regarding, does it really fulfill what you want to do? That's why comparatively, compared to qualitative study basically cannot make any decision about education. Why? Because they have never intended to serve the purpose of generalizing. Dia takkan pakai population besar because, but I'm not saying it's not good. Tu yang silap. Maybe to decide a good candidate for some director ke apa ke, a qualitative study is a better way. Whereby for that one person, we really go in depth. But for a bigger group of population, using a qualitative study is never enough. It must be a quantitative study because quantitative study fulfill conclusion that can be generalized. Okay, and when we talk about generalization kan, when we talk about concluding, that concluding is not based main rasa-rasa je. It is based on what? We are 95% sure, correct? Ingat tak? So now you come to class. Okay, saya tak pernah ponting kelas. Betul ke tak pernah ponting? Okay, even though you are supposed to be in class for 14 weeks, to make things easier, let's say lah, ada 100 classes. What is the number that says that you have never absent from class? If you have reached that number, we can say that you are never absent. Berapa number tu?
100.
Mana 100? Takkan 100 patah 100.
14.
Apa lah 14 lah. Ayo, mati ni. Let's say, rather than having 14, we're talking about 100 classes lah. Kan? Pasal nak senang kira ni. Pasal kalau ambil 14 nanti nak convert susah, nak multiply. So let's say you have to attend 100 classes. How many classes must you attend that we can conclude you are never absent? Definitely it's not 100. You don't need to come for 100 times. I know your video still not on. I would prefer I can see all my students. Especially at the moment right now, we are more discussing rather going through the slides. Okay, hopefully those who have not on their video, Hana, Tahirul, Zang, Menu, Syarani, Fatihah, Tahirul, dari sini. Please on your video. Okay, siapa yang belum sila on kan? Okay, saya tak nak anda menyebut belakang tiang. Okay, so now how many times that you are present that we can safely say, conclude that he is never absent from class? We never expect you to be 100%, 100 days. Berapa kali? I see lamanya.
96, 95, 90.
95. So that figure, if you are present for 95, 96 or more, then we can safely conclude that you are never absent. Agak-agak sentuh 5 tu banyak tak? Kan? Dan saya tak tahu berapa persen. 99%. Okay? Jadi qualitative data, they don't come into numbers. Tak boleh. Tapi quantitative can do that. Because what happens, paling penting when you do inference statistic, there are two main purposes. The first purpose is that we are using the sample to infer on the population. There is 10,000 population of students. We are drawing for tak banyak, that 400 tentative and is okay. Having this in sama semua tak and that the problem and what kalau tak naik we all naik this that because this type tu ambil tu claiming rejecting a true null. Kalau dia doesn't work, kita kata it works. Then and there's some qualitative example of reject error. Rejecting a when that true null. So one of the issue is always regarding the sample size. Kan? Because you use a smaller sample size, you were not able to find the difference. Because you didn't use the right inference test. You couldn't find the difference. But also we do not want for you to use something very sensitive, such as the parametric test, independent test, so that you can detect differences, which is not really there. So compared to qualitative study lah, I'm asserting again how very sure we are when we use a quantitative study, provided those that use this study really knows what they are doing. Okay, that's why it's very important for us, starting first most after you have developed your instrument, is to understand regarding the null hypothesis. Okay, so kita dah discuss kan, starting from the objective of the study, research question, followed by the null hypothesis. Okay, so the null hypothesis, refer again kan dulu kan, we are talking about dalam case mahkamah. Okay, so again, I reiterate, any person that goes into court are always not guilty. It is the duty of the prosecutor to provide enough evidence to reject that not guilty, only then that person will be found guilty. In the case of our research, there is no difference. There is no relationship. Okay? So researcher, what do they have to do? They have collect enough evidence so that they can reject that no difference. So there is never the case of using the alternative hypothesis. But when that null hypothesis is rejected, then definitely we have to take that alternative as a substitute. Okay? So in the case of null hypothesis, up to last week, remember very well. So I haven't gone to discuss because it's quite difficult, but we have to do it last week. we are talking about non-directional. Kan? So bila non-directional, what does it mean? There is no difference. Kalau non-directional, pakai two-tail test. But using a two-tail test, when you are saying at 95%, P.05, it is really 2.5 on the left, 2.5 on the right. Betul tak? Ingat tak? Meaning, we have lesser chance of getting a significance if that significance is there. Okay, I'm reminding again. Umaira, Arif, Fatihah, Jang, Menu. Hana, please on your video. Ada problem ke? Keep your video on. Fatihah, Hana. Okay, it's very important. Okay, sekarang ni, again back to that question just now. If that difference is there, then we might want to locate a bigger space. Kalau masih ingat lagi when we change from a non-directional to a directional hypothesis, what happened? Kita dah tukar daripada 5% kepada 2.5 on the left, 2.5 on the right, kepada total 5% on the right or total 5% on the left. Remember not? Dan perkataan dia lagi, bukan lagi there is no difference. Dia akan tukar kepada there is no increase or there is no decrease. Tidak ada peningkatan atau tidak ada pengurangan. Okay? But to do that, we need to refer to the table kan. So tak boleh because some people say why not that 0.05 tu bagi 2. Tak boleh. Kena refer balik pada jadual. Okay? That's why for t-test especially, we don't have that problem because there is t-test available putting for one tail and two tail. Tapi for other tests, including kalau kita guna Manwini U, that table I don't think is at present. I managed to find it. Tak jumpa. So we try to reserve using the one tail more on t-test punya issue. Okay. So kalau kita buat independent, kita buat difference. When we do a difference using a t-test, then if you feel that you should use a directional, you should use a one tail, then perhaps you should do so. Then the probability of you getting a significance would be better. Okay? So in the case of you trying out a new module, a new teaching aid, a new method, a new teaching, a new practice, maybe it's more favorable to use a one-tail test coming from a directional hypothesis null. Okay. So for your chapter 1 to 3, I'm just asking for the difference and relationship. That difference can also mean just a two-tail, a normal non-directional. We are saving that relationship maybe for next week or another 2 weeks time. But for today, we are talking only about the differences. Okay? So before we start on the slides, so the slides that I've given you, that PDF file, nombor berapa? 16, AE16, is the whole PowerPoint slide. So all the PowerPoint slides that are there are put in together as AE16. Jumpa tak? Go through dulu. Those that haven't received this email, Najrah dah naik dah benda ni dah dalam WhatsApp.
Dah doktor dah.
Sudah boleh
Okay.
buka.
So thankful to Nadira, she has uploaded to your WhatsApp. So
Yes,
whether you get it through the email or through the WhatsApp. Okay, anybody that haven't received those files, if you have received, could just go through file yang mula-mula tu, AE16 kalau tak silap, yang tajuk all tu, file PDF tu. Cuba tengok. Semua yang ada tu adalah gabungan semua slide. So for today, we will be looking at differences. And for today, we will only be looking at a non-directional. We are looking at two-tail lah untuk hari ni. Hari ni kita buat two-tail dulu. Yulu, my English, is it okay to you? Okay.
Yes, doctor.
Jiang, are you understanding my English? Okay. Zhang.
Okay.
Zhang, okay you?
Yes, okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Hana, macam mana? Okay.
Yes, I'm fine.
Your video still tak be on.
I will change the device. It doesn't work here, the video.
Those people in hierarchy can afford to buy more expensive device lah. Okay, so please do so lah. Okay, Hana? Okay. Now, before we move on, any question tak? Okay, for today, we are looking at differences. Okay, when you talk about statistics, inference, there is only two group of analysis. Perbezaan dan perkaitan. Itu je dua. Okay, so for today, we are looking at differences. When you talk about differences, we may also be talking about a one tail and two tail. But for today, we are only looking at two tail dulu. Okay, so that you can understand how to do this test and how to read the output. What I've given you, I think lah, I can't say that it's totally complete, but what I've given you are the data which I drew from, because most of you may have problem. I'm saying you may have problem. Videos in English. So I've drawn this video from SR is Sahid Harjo from Indonesia. So you can check this video online. But definitely English videos a lot more. Lagi banyak. Okay. Pasal mungkin takut anda tak faham. So saya ambil yang dalam bahasa Indonesia. Yang BM saya tak jumpa lah. Bahasa Melayu. Okay. So for every of these tests, I've included the video. I've included the SPSS data. So hopefully you have interacted with the SPSS. You know how to key in data in the SPSS. And of course, data from Word dengan Excel pun kan, can be copied straight into SPSS. Jadi if you can do that, okay. But you cannot do that, okay, you can tell me. Then maybe lah, we try to do something about it. Okay. So those data I've given you, so that kita bypass lah nak key in data. Kalau boleh, kita punya, this class is about how to run the data, how to run the test, and how to interpret the output. Okay. But anybody having problems, please tell so that we can do something about it. Okay. And lastly, there is a PowerPoint whereby I take a screen, print screen ni shot ya. Every step tu. Letak step by step, using that data from the SPSS. Using that data from the YouTube. Yeah? That's why yang ambil Syed Rajo punya tu. Because only Syed Rajo and a few others lah ya, yang when they teach, they provide the data. Most others tak ada kan. They use the YouTube, they teach, but you cannot get the data. Okay. So for this guy, Syed Rajo, syukur Alhamdulillah. Dalam kes dia pula, data dia tak banyak, 22 lebih kurang ya. And data tu boleh buat. Because without the data, quite difficult to learn. But nevertheless, you face any problem, please inform me. And hopefully we can do something about it lah. Okay. Ada soalan tak regarding last week and what I've spoken just now? Before we start on the analysis of the differences for this week. Ada soalan? Siapa tanya soalan tak on video tak mau jawab. Hanya yang on video saja saya nak jawab soalan dia. Okey, jawapan soalan. Any question? Tak ada? Okay semua? Is it okay lah? Macam mana? Semua okay? Okay ya? So Umairah, Enu, dari sini Hana, first warning. Pasal atas on video. Okay, now we go to the slides. Okay ya? So slide ni, yang PDF file tu complete lah. But I'll be using PowerPoint punya slide. Okay, we are looking at the first slide. So for this slide, I put together both BM and English. So hopefully, for Jiang, Yulu, Zhang and Hana, what is conveyed in BM, by the side is the English word. Okay, first, the general idea regarding the whole class for today. Our study should always start with the problem statement. Hopefully you have done it well. Your assignments due on the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. No extended time. Siapa hantar lambat, potong 10%. From the problem statement, we come with the aim of the study. Okay, aim of the study only exists if you have 2 or more objectives. Followed by the objective of the study, followed by the research question, followed by the research hypothesis. So normally, for any study, the first question is always about descriptive statistic. So chances are descriptive statistic does not have a hypothesis. Okay, but question that followed later, that testing for hypothesis, could have a hypothesis lah. Okay, then your instrument. So we have discussed about the instrument. For this particular course, you must have 3 instruments. You must have. Minimum for every instrument is 5 items. We have gone through the validity and the reliability. So you must have a test, you must have a questionnaire, you must have an observation checklist. Okay? From these 3 instruments, we collect data and we analyze the data. So chances are the first question is about descriptive statistic. We always talk about the central tendency, memusat, dan the variation, menyerak. So the normal indexes are for the central tendency, memusat, we talk about mean, median and mode. The variation, we talk about the standard deviation, the variance, and the range. Coming back to the mean, median, and mode, remember very well, what is the mean? The mean is when you add all the numbers and you divide by the numbers. What is the mean? Mean is always when you have a set of numbers, you always take the middle number. And if it's even, you add the two middle number, so that's the median. Okay, Assalamualaikum Nisa, kenapa lambat sangat? Pukul 9. Okay, kemudian the mode, the number that most often crops up in our set of data. So that is the difference between the usage of all these three central index. Definitely, the mode is not used at all. Either we use the mean or the median. Why is that? Comes from right now. If you take that mean, that mean can differ depending on what we call outliers. So in example A, the number 10, example B, number 20, and example C, 100. Because of that outlier, the mean changes drastically. As compared if you choose the median still stays the same at 5.5. Preferably, we choose the mean, but since mean can be disrupted by the outlier, then we may have to choose the median. Always refers it as the word mean rank. Okay, so now you know the mean and the median. So we always have a set of data for this example, and from this set of data, when we draw necessary graph on it, it looks like this. See, so 35, there's only 1, 21, there is 4. It forms a normal curve. Can you see my cursor move? Can you see that?
Can, Doktor.
Cursor tu boleh nampak? Boleh nampak dekat
Yes.
Sebab itu taburan ni katakan taburan normal. Okay. So this is a better graph lah. A better image of a normal curve. So when you talk about mean, it is never only the mean we are concerned with. We are also concerned with the standard deviation. In BM is SP, MPRY. So many people do talk of mean, but when they don't bring in standard deviation, definitely conclusion dia akan salah. Okay? So when you use the mean, the standard deviation must be included because it tells you about the upstream, ujung tu. Dalam case ini, you see that all the means are the same, 10. Tapi oleh kerana, because the standard deviation is different, then this is what we call the distribution is not homogeneous. Okay, what do you mean by homogeneous? Homo apa?
Satu jenis.
Semacam. Sama. Okay. Dalam kes ni, they are not homogeneous. Standard deviation. On the right, kurus, standard deviation is 0.87. On the left, gemuk, standard deviation is 4.16. Okay. This situation of not homogeneous has bearing on your analysis. especially dalam t-test nanti. Okay, that's why we got to know. Okay, so perkataan dia lah variance dia sama atau tidak. If the variance are the same, we conclude from one set of data. If the variance are not the same, we have to conclude differently. Again, this is not present in non-parametric. Ingat, non-parametric pakai apa tadi? Median atau mean rank. Non-parametric does not use any variation. Dia tak ada siang PY. That's why the parametric is a better set of tests. Okay? Because it's very specific. So parametric better than non-parametric, better than qualitative in making decision. Okay? Again, jangan kata pula qualitative tak bagus. Kan? Kalau kita nak describe kecantikan seseorang, quantitative figure tak bagus. Kita pakai qualitative. But for making decision, it must be a quantitative, better parametric, lesser non-parametric. Why? Because parametric involves the mean and the standard deviation. Non-parametric only takes the median into account. Okay. Setakat tu ada soalan dulu tak?
Doktor nak tanya.
Ya, wait.
Yang ni ke yang effect size?
Bukan.
Okay.
Kan, belum lagi. Effect size tak masuk. Okay, effect size dalam nota tu ada. Boleh baca lepas ni, tapi we are not talking about it now.
Okay, doktor.
Okay, anybody else any question? Tak ada?
Doktor, untuk yang non-parametric itu kita guna atau median and range ya doktor?
Range pun tak ada. Dia, calculation is just based on the median sahaja for non-parametric.
Okay doktor.
Okay, okay. So now if you are clear about that,
Doktor,
yes.
Karenisa dia message saya, dia dalam perjalanan ke ke balik rumah sebab dia dari universiti urusan convocation. Jadi dia line dia tak ada, so dia masuk tak masuk macam tu.
Tak apalah, bila hantar tak cukup sempurna dapat F lah, itu je. Okay, I appreciate you having all kind of problem kan. Sakit ke apa, I'm not saying that is not proper. But if you don't send in the right standards of work, you won't get. That's all. Yeah? And of course, those grades will come. I say will come from your question. Tak jelas tanya. Up to now, every one of you have survived kan? Semua masih hidup kan? Okay? So kalau tak tahu, tak tanya soalan, memang kekal tak tahulah. If you don't ask any question, then we'll never know. Okay. Other than that mean, median, and mode kita tak pakai also we talk about NOIR kan? Nominal, ordinal, interval ratio. Okay. So that also has bearing on the analysis of data. So nominal are numbers that doesn't have any significance. It's just well. We'll be using that nominal data later bila kita pakai chi-square. So don't worry. Okay. So we are using frekuensi dan sebagainya nanti. Yang kedua ialah ordinal data. Especially in questionnaire whereby there is an order but the distance between the numbers are not fixed. Thirdly, interval data. Difference in the numbers are fixed but there is no absolute zero. And lastly, ratio data. The numbers are fixed but there is an absolute zero. So a good example of ratio data is always about something that you have money. When you say you have zero money, means you don't have any money. When do you mean you have zero house, you don't have any house. But for ordinal data, again, for interval data, when you say 0 marks, does not mean you do not have knowledge. Okay? So kita tak katalah budak tu dapat markah kosong, dia tahu langsung, tak. So that's why that 0 is not calculated as benda yang absolute. The good things that all interval and ratio, SPSS group them together as scale. Tu dah bagus dah lah. Okay. So we have nominal data, chi-square punya group. Ordinal data, most likely akan pakai non-parametric group. Dan scale data, most likely akan pakai parametric group. Okay. The only thing is that when use the parametric group, there's another yang kena fulfill, normality. Okay. So for us to use the parametric test, kita kena pastikan data to scale, then the distribution is normal. Okay. So I think I've gone through regarding measurement before we start for the analysis. Kita mula dengan the t-test. Okay, before going on, any question? Tak ada. Okay, tak ada, kita go on. Inilah. Okay. We are going to start with independent t-test. The good thing is that SPSS will do all the calculation. Kan? So one of somebody's punya apa panggil? Kemurungan, when they went for a statistic course, they were asked to do it manually. Banyaklah remeh kerja, sedangkan SPSS boleh kira. Macam bawa kereta kan? Kalau boleh-boleh mula-mula nak bawa kereta, when you learn how to drive, would you prefer a manual or an auto car? Anybody have driven a manual car? Nazirah boleh bawa nak kereta ni, manual?
Boleh?
Boleh?
Boleh.
Apa masalah masa belajar dulu?
Boleh doktor.
Tu susah nak balance kaki lagi, tangan lagi.
Enjin mati.
Ini ejen mati.
Betul tak?
Betul.
Kenapa enjin mati?
Sebab clutch.
Sebab
You kena coordinate your minyak and your clutch. Okay, if you cannot coordinate, enjin akan mati. But does that happen auto car tak? Bermakna having auto car have removed the biggest problem. Kan? Enjin mati nak coordinate tu. Satu, anybody that learn auto car, dia memang tak boleh bawa punya manual. It's quite difficult to adjust benda tu. Enjin akan mati. Confirm. Naik bukit apa mati. So dengan ada auto car, the problem of adjusting your leg tadi tu tak perlu dah. Okay? So that's the analogy I'm bringing here. By having SPSS, we don't need to calculate. SPSS will calculate. But even SPS calculate, dia calculate according to these steps. So it can be a 5-step, 4-step sama lah. Basically, we are using a hypothesis testing. Kan? So yang pertama, state the hypothesis, the null dengan alternative. Yang kedua, remember last week, critical region kan? Ingat tak? Critical region dalam 1-tier, 2-tier test kan? Locate the critical region, then the software will calculate the statistic according to the formulas. So formula is not the same for every test tak? Independent t-test lain, PET t-test lain, semua lain. So they calculate, last kali, good for us, kita dapat apa? Less than 0.5 atau more than 0.5 kan? Itu saja kita ada. Kereta dah jadi auto dah. You just need to read that 0.05 less or more. The whole calculation thing SPS saya dah buat lah. But at least lah, that's why if you understand the formula, you understand that for you to get a good p-value, one of the requirement is n. Size n tu perlu cukup besar. When the n is small, chances are it's more difficult to get a lesser than 0.05. So that explanation can be referred to the formula of the t-test. Jadi kalau boleh, that formula jangan lupa terus lah. Tengok balik. Formula tu macam mana, that formula will tell you about what you are getting. But for this class, kita ambil shortcut, kita naik auto car. Okay, we left our manual car kat tepi rumah. Cukup. Now, we will go pada independent t-test. Okay, so sekarang ni, I will do it using SPSS proper. For you to follow, you still have your PDF file tu, ataupun PowerPoint slide on the independent t-test. Boleh? Okay, you have the data on independent t-test. You have the PowerPoint slide step by step. But on the screen, I'll be using the SPSS punya file proper. Okay ya? So kita cuba tengok. Okay. Ni cakap orang putih lah. Yulo okay ke? Boleh ya? Okay. So I stop presenting now with the PowerPoint. Okay. So sekarang ni atas paparan is the SPSS